Prime time it is with Coach Prime and Colorado as Kalani Sitake and the Cougars take on the Buffs. BYU, number 25 in the country, 6.5-point favorite. These two teams played 9 months ago in the Alamo Bowl, Spence. You remember, you were there. 36-14. BYU dominated that game. So, how different do you expect tomorrow's game to be from the Alamo Bowl?
Well, I don't know if I can paint a picture that tells you how differently I think this will be. Like, we're going from one side of the galaxy to the next. We're warp speed to something different because this Colorado team is so incredibly different than what BYU faced last year. Obviously, in star power and the individuality of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, your Heisman Trophy winner, gone are those guys. I know that Deion Sanders and the staff feel like they're a better team overall. Deion was clear when he said, look, we're not going to have as much individual talent. No one's questioning that, but we feel like we will grow into be a better team than Colorado was last year. It's an interesting statement because at 2-2, they've had their struggles. Doesn't feel like it. The one carryover, I think, Jarom, is that Colorado, at least through 4 games, I feel like the best thing they do is they still throw the ball at a decent clip. And so that's kind of what I anticipate Colorado will do on offense is they will rely heavily on the arm of Caden Salter. He got it going against Wyoming a bit last week, and they're going to let him chuck it all over the field. There's this narrative out there that BYU's pass defense hasn't really been tested downfield. They were tested against ECU with the quick pace, and they did face a lot more passing attempts, but not a ton of deep shots. So I feel like there is something building here potentially to have BYU's corners tested middle to deep down the field against this Colorado team that does seem to pass okay. I thought the Buffs would run the ball a little bit better this time around. They're down their top 2 running backs as of the injury report yesterday.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what to expect in the run game. Maybe Caden Salter gets loose a little bit because he can run, but when you got Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker potentially spying him as a runner, I don't know how much he's going to be able to do with his legs. So what I expect is this game to be very different. The one carryover is I think Colorado will try and test BYU's pass defense deep down the field to try and create some explosive plays and get their home crowd going. How else do you see this playing out differently than the Alamo Bowl?
I do think BYU is going to win convincingly. I don't know that it's a 17+, but I do expect a 2-score win by BYU in this. I think BYU handles business on the road, and they start Big 12 play with the win. There are nuances that are different, though, that you mentioned. There's no Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter sitting there. There's no, I know he slid, but NFL draft pick quarterback Shedeur Sanders sitting there. And there's no overhyped narrative either, which is good for BYU fans. So a couple things, 4 things. 1, no Travis Hunter has affected the secondary, the pass defense, the coverage for Colorado. The 57.3 grade in pass coverage from PFF, 3rd lowest among Power 4s. I think there will be shots down the field to be had for BYU. DJ McKinney is an NFL prospect at corner. He's the guy. Keep an eye on him. So can Bear Bachmeier and BYU get some explosive pass plays? They have 2 pass plays of 40+ so far. Meanwhile, they have 7 runs. Number 2, Caden Salter will challenge the BYU defense, as you mentioned, more than Shedeur Sanders did. That sounds crazy, but because he can run, that will create some problems. There will be a couple frustrating 3rd and longs where Caden Salter scrambles for a 1st down. They'll probably spy him, as you mentioned, with Jack Kelly and or Isaiah Glasker. Number 3, no Sione Moa is a big deal. That means more LJ Martin, more Bear Bachmeier in the run game. And then introduce yourself to Preston Rex. Preston Rex is probably going to get some carries in this game at running back, perhaps Jovessa Demuni as well. Would have been nice to have Hinckley Ropati in this situation. They have not heard back from the NCAA. Maybe they don't expect to at this point. I don't know if they're still on pins and needles 4 or 5 weeks into the season. We'll see. LJ has been spectacular. He can carry BYU in this game. 8.5 yards per carry is his average. 4 runs of 40+. That's tied for 1st in the country. BYU has one of the most explosive run games in the nation right now. They get chunks, and it's going to be awesome. Number 4, Colorado has more of a run game. They average 100 yards more than they did last year. They were worst in the country at 44 a game. They're about 141 a game. But as you mentioned, Simeon Price out, sprained his ankle against Wyoming. 6.8 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. He won't be there. DeKalen Taylor, 4th leading rusher, 3rd among running backs. He is out. So you have 2 of your top 4 in there for Colorado. BYU can stuff the run, force Colorado to pass, pin their ears back, and I think that means interceptions. If Logan Latui gets off the field, Tanner Wall will pick off some passes. I kid, I like Logan. This will be another convincing win for BYU, I believe. It'll be different than it was in the Alamo Bowl, but I believe BYU will start 1-0 in Big 12 play because of some of those factors.
Yeah, the run game and the physicality is very interesting on both sides of this conversation because based on what Colorado has done against Power 4 opponents specifically in the run game, Houston and Georgia Tech, it hasn't gone well. Like, I don't know that they can match up with BYU physically. So when you point out LJ Martin, and even though BYU doesn't have Sione Moa, I still think that Enoch Nawahine and Jovesa Damuni and Preston Rex, those guys understand the physicality. They want to run with some force. And they're not Sione, but they'll still run in that fashion. I don't know if Colorado wants to match up with BYU's physicality. So maybe the one carryover I do think, or consistency that we saw in the Alamo Bowl that might show up here tomorrow night at Folsom Field is BYU is going to be physical again. They are going to bring it. And I don't know if Colorado is built to withstand it for an entire football game, which maybe then creates the separation that you're talking about and that BYU wins this game comfortably. You define comfortably however you want it. BYU is a 6.5-point favorite. I tend to believe that BYU is going to beat the spread in that fashion and win this game by double figures just by wearing Colorado down. But I also like that you pointed out that you believe that both teams are going to test each other's secondaries deep down the field. I was talking about Caden Salter going after BYU secondary. But, yeah, can BYU run one back on Colorado and get some explosive plays in the pass game against their secondary with no Travis Hunter? Like, there's so many fascinating aspects. Frankly, I don't think we really have any idea what we're going to expect, which takes us to our next question, Jarom. Like, if we want to get very specific here, what type of game and how it lays out tomorrow night under the lights of Folsom Field do you actually expect between the Buffs and Cougars?
A 34-20 type win for BYU, where a couple of takeaways make the difference, where LJ Martin makes the difference. Explosive run game, perhaps in the pass game, but I think BYU has a late lead and they can ice it out with a dominating run game. That's the type of game I feel like will happen. And there's been some narrative this week from us and others about the emotions of the Alamo Bowl and retribution, revenge, and that kind of thing. I know yesterday you guys had Brian Howell of BuffZone.com on. He was talking about Colorado's lack of identity. To me, that's a big deal going into this game. Here's what he said.
There is no identity. I mean, that was a huge question even going into last week was, what's your identity? And they didn't have one. There's really not a lot of key guys that were playing in that Alamo Bowl that are back. And so I do think that for the most part, it's just, I think the message probably there's a lot of mutual respect for BYU.
You know what doesn't happen against BYU's defense? You find out your identity suddenly. If anything, you don't know who you are even more after. So I feel like BYU's defense is going to do their thing in this one. Jay Hill is going to lick his chops again, and maybe pregame he'll do what he did with you in the Alamo Bowl, which is smile at you in a way that tells you BYU is absolutely ready.
The coy smile and the declaration that don't be surprised if we roll these guys.
Coy like Coy Detmer, Colorado quarterback?
We'll see. Nice. Hey, I do have a note that I'd like to point out in regards to Hinckley Ropati.
Yeah.
Jay Drew of the Deseret News did point out earlier this week that Ropati's waiver has been denied.
Okay.
So apparently that thing is gone. Like,
Dang
it's not happening.
Didn't know that.
Which stinks.
That's terrible
which
news.
Makes the Sione Moa departure, yeah, which makes the Sione Moa absence even more glaring, right? Yep. And so you said it. Get yourselves acquainted with Preston Rex and Enoch Nawahine and Jovesa Damuni. I tend to believe, based on what has happened in practice with personnel this week, that it's going to be Preston Rex that's seeing the majority of the snaps, at least when BYU wants to use a running back as a pass-catching option. Saw him do some work with Bear Bachmeier. So it hurts to not have him in there. You hate the depth hit that BYU takes there, and hopefully Sione can get back sooner than later, especially for that critical stretch run when BYU takes on the likes of Utah, Iowa State, Texas Tech, and TCU.
This might be a 20-25 carry game for LJ. That's what it might be. Okay, with so many unknowns heading into tomorrow night's game, what are you willing to guarantee will happen in the game?
That BYU will rush for at least 180 yards against Colorado. I guarantee it. It is going to happen. Hopefully that means LJ Martin is over 100 again. Maybe Bear Bachmeier is asked to do more with his legs because of the things that have happened with BYU's personnel this week. But I guarantee that BYU's physical front and their ability to run the ball thus far this season will carry over, and there will be one of those breakout runs that might take until late in the game, like it did with ECU for LJ Martin to break off a 40-plus. But there's going to be an explosive play in the run game, maybe two. They go over 180. They control the line of scrimmage late in the game, and I think that is probably my most confident guarantee in terms of how this game plays out, aside from we both believe that BYU is going to win this game.
Should that number be higher? Because BYU is averaging 266. I know a lot of that was Portland State. A lot of that was Stanford. But mine goes specific to LJ Martin. I think for a fourth straight game, he's going over 100, which kind of taps into what you're saying.
Over 100.
I think he'll have 100 yards again. I think if he doesn't, there might be issues for BYU. They need to be able to run the ball against Colorado, who is 109th in the country in defensive rush success rate. That is slowing teams down of a certain percentage they're trying to get on first, second, third down, and so on. I think LJ has another game, a good game. I think BYU controls the rock, and I think the BYU O-line continues to do its thing in pass and run block grades in PFF. They are top 15. They've been fantastic this season so far. Our question of the day is this. On a scale of 1 to last year's Alamo Bowl, how confident are you that BYU will beat Colorado? At MMags41 on X. In 1981, I did a road trip to Boulder to see McMahon play the Buffs Are Puffs and got a bonus to see Steve Young in his earliest scrambling performance. No difference today. The Buffs Are Puffs. Go Cougs. BYU fans feeling confident. I know ECU fans got weird by how confident BYU was. They took it to them. At Dunsky99 on Instagram. Not quite the Alamo Bowl, but not far off. I think that's what we're calling for. It's not a 3-score win. It's a 2-score win tomorrow night.
So I asked the question to my comrades out here in the production team, David Holliday and Junior Phillips, last night. I'll ask it to you as well, Jarom, and that is, do you feel straight up more confident that BYU will win this game than you did last week against ECU?
No, I did not on Monday say 17-plus out of the gates. I just think Colorado's more talented. I think Salter's a better quarterback than Caden Hauser. I think they will present a challenge, and this is Power 4 on the road. Those games are tough. I know BYU last year did a good job winning the majority of those, but there's a sort of respect there for who Colorado is as a program. That was a 9-4 team last year. They feel like they've got some talent returning, and Jordan Seaton's a good left tackle, although he came out for some reason in the game last week. They've got more of a run game. You know, there are more kind of threats in different spots. It's not as good a team, though, as last year's Alamo Bowl team. Like, why wouldn't this BYU team do something similar? Now, if BYU wins by 21, I won't be surprised. I'm calling for a 2-score game. What's the difference? But BYU will go in there and win this game. Now, if they don't, Spence, if they are upset, that changes the expectations on the season quite a bit, because this is not a game that we have BYU losing in the gauntlet of the Big 12. They need to win this, obviously, to stay in the hunt for what they hope is a dark horse challenge to get to Arlington at the end of the regular season.
At what point will BYU trail in a game this season?
Right.
Because they haven't trailed at any point in the first 3 games. And
probably
if you
in this
trail
game
for the first time and you're on the road and the crowd's going, how does BYU handle that type of adversity when things do get a little bit emotionally weird? We asked the question about Bear Bachmeier, like, hey, if he has some weird moments, how does he handle it? How does he respond? It wasn't great in the first half, showed up, looked great in the second half, but still BYU never trailed. So, yeah, interesting to watch if that happens, how the BYU offense and Bachmeier handle a hostile crowd while they are trailing with the deficit in play.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Okay.
All right. Okay. Let's weigh in on X, Facebook, and Instagram if you want to join the question of the day. But I do ask this question as well. Which Big 12 game, Jarom, other than BYU at Colorado, is the most intriguing to you?
It's tonight. It's number 24 TCU at Arizona State. This is a big game for Arizona State. They got a walk-off win at Baylor last week. TCU, first conference game like BYU. TCU is kind of in show-me mode of we've seen some good things. We like what they've carried in so far this season. They've beaten SMU in the Iron Skillet. They beat UNC, although everyone feels like they're beating UNC. Whoever wins this game, you get just a little notch up, right, in the race here, although you're not out of it. There's some other interesting matchups as well. I would say my second one is Arizona at number 14 Iowa State. If Arizona's legit, they go and win that game. Iowa State, meanwhile, is probably the most consistent thing in this league right now from the last couple of years. So I'm interested in these games. And then Utah, West Virginia, that's a sneaky kind of weird game, Spence, for the Utes.
Yes.
BYU's first trip out there was weird. Lost by 30. I'm not saying Utah's doing that, but it's an emotional sort of rebound game for Utah after last week's disappointing, not for this audience, loss to Texas Tech.
Getting into the full swing of conference play is always super entertaining. Just having that week-to-week context and these juicy matchups make it so much fun to be a part of a conference again and watch how this all unfolds. I agree. Tonight's game between TCU and Arizona State is the clear headliner, with Arizona State as a 3.5-point favorite. What can TCU and Josh Hoover do against what we believe is a formidable defense from the Sun Devils? I know that they lost to Mississippi State, speaking of ASU, but they didn't give a ton of points, and they had just a massive defensive breakdown late in the game, or else they're undefeated and still nationally ranked, and they win that game. So I'm really looking forward to that one, but you said it. What is Utah a week after being very disappointed at home against Texas Tech? And is this finally the week that Kansas State solves some of their issues and they beat a UCF team that's unbeaten but really untested? Or does UCF keep it going and K-State's nightmare season gets even worse? Like, I love the context of the Big 12.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's only year 3, but I'm still getting used to all this. I mean, it is great. Okay, entering week 4 in the NFL, BYU has the leading receiver in the league in Puka Nacua, leader in average yards per punt in our boy Ryan Rico with your Bengals, and the top-graded linebacker according to PFF and Fred Warner. Which of these 3 do you like the most?
Jarom, any excuse I have to discuss my Bengals and Ryan Rico, I'm absolutely going to take.
Hunting.
Even though last week's game was an abomination. Outside of Rico was the best part of that miserable Bengals performance.
We love Ryan, but that's not good.
Oh, he's doing his thing, but I'm still going to lean into the Puka Nacua situation.
Amen.
It is wild to me that he's in a wide receiver core with Devontae Adams and Tutu Atwell, and he's the guy for LA. Like, he's Hollywood Puka is a real thing. And for him to consistently do this now, we're like, hey, he had an incredible rookie season. Well, can he do it again? And he put up crazy numbers in spite of missing a good chunk of last season. And now he shows up again this season. Everybody knows he's got the target on his back. They know what he is, and they're still targeting him. And entering week 4, he still had the most receiving yards. It is so hard to do that, and you just can't stop him. So I'm going with Puka.
Yeah, Puka is crazy consistent. Ryan Rico has turned himself into a bona fide star, if a punter can be a star. And then Fred Warner is Fred Warner.
Weapon.
That's what we've come to expect. Puka continues to do it now in year 3, which is fantastic. So good stuff from the boys in the NFL. Number 25, BYU at Colorado at Folsom Field, where Spencer is just outside of right now. Pre-game tomorrow night, 8 Eastern on BYU TV and BYU Radio.